ready? Come on up, please.
Yeah, that's just where you put it. But I got
Well, we know what it is. What are you looking for? You might do me a favor, hand that piece of paper there. Thank you.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. It is 6:31. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to take a moment of silence to honor Harvey Weber. He was a past Taconic Hill Central School District board member. So we can have a moment of silence, and then I'm going to read a little something about Harvey. Okay, thank you. So Harvey had been an educator for over 41 years on both the high school and college levels. Most of his career was spent teaching history. Harvey was also a reading coordinator, a GED teacher, and for many years a director of student activities. He had a Master of Arts degree and was then presented with many awards during his career, including that of the Outstanding Educator Award from St. Francis College and 1993 Staten Island Brooklyn Teacher of the Year. Harvey was also a job developer for those students who wished to enter the workplace immediately following high school. He pioneered courses for civil service and placed many young men in maritime careers. He was elected to the Taconic Hill School Board of Education in May of 2008. Harvey served 6 years on various committees and championed civil service testing for students as a way to start a career. He was a friend of public education, an asset to the Taconic Hills Board of Education, and we never saw him without a smile on his face. He will be missed. My memories of Harvey when I first got on the school board is I love people when they tell me stories anyway, but he had such an interesting life, and I loved hearing all of his stories. His tugboat stories are probably my favorite and the ones that he told the most because he was very interested in the maritime and making sure that children got a career, not necessarily going to college. So yeah, Harvey was a great guy. So thanks. Okay, a public forum. We have Shayna Smith. Do we have a microphone in the
I don't think there's one.
Okay.
You
Can you
take
talk
one.
loud enough, Shayna?
These are taped down.
Should I come up? I just don't want to enter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Get up closer. Yeah. Only goes so far.
Where should I go? Oh, over here? Sorry.
You might not even need it. Right here.
Oh, I just don't know if you want me to. Go for it.
I think, well, you try it.
Go for it. Good evening. My name is Shayna Smith. I'm speaking. There we go. Ooh, that's loud.
Okay, my name is Shana Smith. I'm speaking on behalf of the Taconic Hills Faculty Association. First, so the Faculty Association is very concerned about the district's plan for reopening. Education is our top priority, and we want our students back in classrooms, but proper teaching and learning cannot happen without feeling safe and healthy. There are still many important unanswered questions about how the district will protect the health and safety of the Taconic Hills community. We are also very troubled by the fact that this meeting is being held in person following last week's heavily attended meeting where many members who had emailed the district requesting to speak during the public forum were not recognized. Governor Cuomo stated last week that reopening must involve working with both parents and teachers. As an association, we do not feel we are part of this process. I hope the board has been able to read all of the emails our members have sent outlining their concerns in this reopening process. While we are grateful that our students have been given a remote option, no clear answers on how that will work has been given. It also does nothing to alleviate our concerns with proper cleaning, having students in the building 5 days straight a week. We were also very concerned to see the district was not prepared to answer any of the over 100 questions that came in before and during the first reopening meeting for our parents yesterday. This has been a trend in almost every reopening meeting the district has hosted. There is no sound reason that our district cannot choose a hybrid option, which would allow students to experience in-person learning while keeping exposure to a minimum. I want to thank the Board of Ed for your time and consideration of the Faculty Association's concern. The THFA has also sent some pertinent scientific data that goes over the risks of COVID in schools, and that's basically it from the Faculty Association. And then something separately from me personally. So this is not on behalf of the Faculty Association, this is me speaking. So if I can ask, this is the art teacher in me, if you guys can close your eyes and envision this. So close your eyes, thank you. I want you to envision a beautiful ship, something that looks like the Titanic. And it's very much, it's Taconic Hill. This beautiful ship, the building is gorgeous, the facility's gorgeous. Ship. And the crew, aka the teachers and the staff, they work together to make sure the guests, aka the students, are happy and that they're being well taken care of. But some of the people in charge and those who make some of the life-threatening decisions choose to do things like not have enough lifeboats. It feels like the captain or the people leading our ship are drilling holes in the bottom of the ship. And everybody in the crew, the staff, they're trying to chew gum to fill up the holes, and we're sinking. And it's really scary. It's really scary. So at the end of the day, if we can have some lifeboats, that would be really nice. Because I feel a little embarrassed. And that's all. So thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Robert Bradley.
Well,
Do you need to come up here? Can you
No.
come down now?
I'm all right. Going to be all right.
Yeah, you sound good.
Social distance. So kind of touch on what was just mentioned. I know this is extremely hard. There's a lot of holes with what we're seeing, and with every statement that's made, there's 100 questions, and for every question that's answered, there's another 100 questions behind that. But I do feel that probably those 100 questions that were asked probably should have been answered, should have been addressed. It's the only way we're going to deal with it is by answering those questions as they come in. And I understand we got to get back to school, but I feel with some of these remote learning options that for the younger children, the times for remote learning is almost half of what the older children, time is. So, we do have a large school, but I see the numbers are still the same as the classrooms. They haven't gotten small, so we're still jamming kids into a classroom of the same size. So we're not limiting that at all. So I feel that, you know, if we're gonna remote learn at less time, why can we not shorten that class period, you know, or every other day with the smaller kids that are not going to be able to understand what we're trying to tell them. As adults, it's our job to protect them. So they're not going to understand when we're trying to tell them, oh, put your mask on, don't touch so-and-so, don't run around, don't touch that doorknob, don't do this, don't run your hands down the hall, you know, all of that stuff. Our older kids, I'm not saying sacrifice them, but they're going to be able to understand that personal protection a little bit more. Wear your masks. You don't do that. Don't do this. They're going to be able to grasp that a little bit better than the younger ones. So, you know, again, with a hybrid situation, possibly, you know, is an option. You know, I know you guys are trying to do your best, but, you know, I feel that there is a lot of holes, and there could be more options, and maybe listening to some of the community a little bit more, especially the ones that are really involved and trying to, you know, get a grasp on all this as you are. So, you know, and again, trying to put my kid and sit him down. My whole life I've been told I was high energy, off the walls. You know, my kids are the same way. From sun up to sundown, my kids are fishing, hunting, running through the yard, doing everything, just having a blast, full tilt. You take that child and you try to tell him he has to sit for 6.5 hours in one spot and not get outside, not run lunch, not do anything. I don't want to be told, well, hey, your son, he needs to pay attention, or he's not focused. That's not going to happen. So I just feel that with what we're doing, there are some holes and they need to be filled. So, you know, I appreciate everything you guys are doing. I understand it's a tough situation, but, you know, maybe listen to some of the community here and answer some of those questions, and maybe we can come up with a better solution. So, thanks.
Thank you. Okay. So, motion for the acceptance of the agenda. Motion, Ron, second. Joe, any questions? All in favor? Dave, okay. I got to check in there. Okay. Oh, wait a minute.
Just pull it over. You know?
Okay, can you hear me now, Dave? No? Let me just, okay, I'll just keep talking, because that's what I do best. Okay, I need a motion for the acceptance of the consensus agenda. Motion, Craig, second, Ron, we'll go through that. We do have 3 retirements. Yep, Dave. Okay. Okay, thanks, Dave. Just want to acknowledge the 3 retirements. We have Emily Hay, teaching assistant, Linda Knickerbocker, teaching assistant, Linda Yazinski, an SEPD teacher. I want to say congratulations. Are any of them here tonight? I just want to say congratulations and thank you. Well in your next chapter of your life. Thanks. Anybody have any other things on any of the other items on the consensus agenda? I think that's the only thing I really wanted to. All right. All in favor? Aye. Thanks, Dave. Okay. Okay, so now we have reports and presentations, the superintendent's report. Dr. Neil Howard.
Okay, thank you, folks. Yeah, there was some technical problems with the questions the other night. We were expecting a different email, and we're looking at a different email. For the past day and a half, the whole team has been trying to answer those questions in a Google Doc, and I believe there's 4 or 5 more questions to go, and then it'll be posted as soon as those questions are answered. There's duplicate questions, there's things that on there that are a little bit out of our control, but we did our best to answer them. So I just want to start the presentation tonight by saying that our highest priority is the safety of all of our students, our staff, our parents, and the public. And DeConnick Hills, for the public's sake, is part of Questar 3. The region consists of 23 public schools in Columbia, Greene, and Rensselaer counties. The Questar 3 superintendents have been meeting 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, throughout this whole pandemic and since the governor put us on pause. And the whole time we've been discussing plans, bouncing off ideas of each other, and it's been very informative, and we try to work together on our decision making. The problem comes sometimes because our buildings are different, our communities are slightly different. And so as well as these meetings are going on, the business officials, the curriculum directors, all the principals, the facility directors, the transportation directors, the technology directors, and the food service directors have all been working on best practices to accomplish the goal of educating our children safely. Now, with the governor's declaration that school districts can reopen to in-person learning, that obviously is the goal. And because DeConnick Hills is in the position that we have enough space that we can socially distance, that is our choice. And the region meets all the qualification metrics established by the New York State Departments of Health and the governor's office. So DeConnick Hills is planning to reopen for in-person learning for students pre-K through 12th grade on September 10th. The district has offered parents the ability to choose a home learning through online means. The scenario at this time for students to use their district-issued laptops to be linked into classes being taught in person on campus by our teachers. We are working with Questar because there could be the possibility that kids that choose taught by other teachers in other districts, and that's part of the benefit of working in a consortium. So it depends upon what grade levels, what kids sign up for, or what parents choose. Today we are going to share a plan of the major points of the DeConnick Hills reopening plan. But before we do that, I would like to thank all the department heads, the principals, the teachers, the parents, the community members, and the Board of Education members that participated in our discussions about the possibilities and the iterations that could occur or that still might occur into the future. I would also like to thank all the professional organizations that have guided DeConnick Hills through this arduous and winding journey. The Columbia County Superintendents, Questar 3, Needham Associates, who is here tonight, and they are our health and safety consultants, the Columbia County Economic Development Corporation, the Columbia County Emergency Management, Columbia County Health Department, the New York State Department of Health, the New York State Education Department, as well as the Governor's Office. This is truly a living plan that we continue to make modifications to as the data and information become available, and it's coming quickly. I would like to introduce now Nick Smith to start our presentation, our Director of Facilities. Mr. Smith?
Okay, good evening. Tonight I'm going to talk about our disinfection and cleaning plans as well as some modifications that we'll make to our HVAC systems and some other items that pertain to reopening this school year. First, I'd like to just talk about a breakdown of how our staff is laid out in the Buildings and Grounds Department. We have 12 full-time cleaning employees and 2 part-time, 6 full-time maintenance employees, and 3 full-time laborer/groundskeepers. They work outside most of the time. On the day shift, we have 2 of those full-time employees and 1 of the part-time cleaners, 3 maintenance, 3 laborers. And then in the evening, we have our remaining cleaners, 10, 1 part-time, and 3 full-time maintenance staff. So once we identified our staff that we have to do the work, we had to go through and identify the areas that we would have to give extra attention to. And those are defined as high-touch areas, and we want to clean and disinfect those more often throughout the course of the school day. Those areas are things like door handles, light switches, handrails, tabletops, drinking fountains, sinks, and of course toilets. The way that we're going to keep track of this is using a cleaning log so that we know how often it gets done. And those cleaning logs will have time stamps on them, and they'll be initialed by each employee. I apologize, I know that this is hard to see, especially on the camera. We're gonna work on that. The next thing that we did for our second shift, folks, is break the building down into cleaning zones. So a zone is just an area of the building that one cleaner is assigned to. They're responsible for everything in that zone, from cleaning the restrooms, cleaning the classroom, and then final disinfection at the end. This makes it easier for us to keep track and hold people accountable for the areas that they're in, and to ensure that nothing's missed. So this is a map of the first floor, and each one of those colors represents a zone. This is a map of the second floor, and each one of those colors represents a zone. Now you may notice that the yellow zone is quite a bit larger than the red zone, and that's because that's a high school classrooms. High school classrooms are typically easier to clean and disinfect than elementary classrooms. So this red zone down at the bottom, that one has a restroom in every classroom, so it's much more labor intensive, hence it's a smaller area square footage, but there's just as much work and it's equitable. This is a sample of the cleaning checklist that a custodian or a cleaner would fill out at the end of every night, and they would check off that they hit all of the areas and hit all of the high touch surfaces one last time for that evening, so it's ready for the next day.
Wait, what was that for? I'm sorry. What was that?
That's a cleaning checklist.
Okay.
So this is still going to be a lot of work, but we do have the advantage of some of the areas in the building being used less due to the situation that we're in. So you're going to hear later on that students will be eating in classrooms. So cafeterias are very labor intensive throughout the course of the day. Since the kids are going to be in the classrooms, we'll be able to utilize the people that will be in those areas to do other things, such as cleaning and disinfection. It's been recommended that at least in the beginning, locker rooms aren't used, so we won't have to pay as close of attention to those areas. Of course, if they are used for something, we'll clean them. And at least in the beginning, the pool area won't be utilized as much. Our goal is to prioritize our cleaning and disinfection above all of our other tasks. Everything is important, but at this point in time, cleaning and disinfection is our job number one to make sure that everybody stays safe and healthy. So it doesn't matter what your title is in my department. We talked about having cleaners, laborers, and maintenance people. If we're short enough cleaners where we have to employ maintenance people in a cleaning role, then that's what we're going to do to make sure that we get that done first. So the trade-off may be someone needs a pencil sharpener changed. It might not get done that night. It might have to wait to the next night if we're short on cleaning staff. So that's the concession that we choose to make in order to make sure that we can get all of this done. I want to talk a little bit about our HVAC systems. So throughout most of the building, we have air handler units and rooftop units. This is similar to what we have. So you have a motor, a belt, a fan, filters, coils, heating and cooling coils, and they're packaged into basically a big, giant metal box. Right at the bottom there, fresh air intake, that's where the magic happens. We're going to open those dampers basically as far as we can, weather permitting, in order to bring in the greatest amount of fresh air possible into the classroom spaces and into spaces like this. So that's what we're going to be looking to do. We can do that through our building management system by just simply hitting an override button, and we can tell it to stay open 100%, 75%, 50%. So we're going to bring in as much fresh air as we can. In a classroom, we also have opening windows to do that. We can run the highest rated filter in our equipment that won't adversely affect the operation of that equipment. So restrict airflow to a point that it's no longer effective. So we're hearing a lot about HEPA filters. That's just not practical in most HVAC equipment. But what we can run is a MERV 13 rated filter. Those are on order. They're going to be here by the end of August, and we're going to install them in all of our air handling equipment. We have been ordering sanitizer and other other items by the pallet, not by the case. So right there, that's a pallet of our hand sanitizer, and just to the left of that is our disinfectant. We've made some hand sanitizing stands, which we can deploy throughout the corridors in the building so that students have the opportunity to sanitize their hands frequently. In the office spaces, we put up polycarbonate sheets, also known as plexiglass in some places, in order to act as a sneeze guard to protect both the students and the staff. Touch-free faucets in all of the restrooms throughout the entire facility, so that you don't have to actually touch the faucet. We also have touch-free toilets, we have touch-free soap dispensers, and touch-free paper towel dispensers. This is one of the arrows that we can use in order to delineate one-way traffic in a hallway. So we have these, and we'll be putting these on our freshman Terrazzo floor. I'm so excited about that. We also have these that we can put on all of our entrances that remind students and staff about social distancing and maintaining 6 foot of separation. These are some tools that we have if we need to disinfect a large space in a hurry. So we can actually put disinfectant in these and be able to broadcast it throughout a room. Some are made specifically for this purpose. Most custodial suppliers have back orders of up to 300 or more of these, and they're not able to fill them. So we decided to get creative in order to make sure that our staff has the tools that they need. So we've repurposed paint sprayers, and the middle one is actually something that you can buy at Home Depot to fog your backyard for insects. We're going to put disinfectant in and fog spaces as needed. All right, so how can everybody help us? Because we can certainly go through and clean and disinfect the building and make sure that it's safe, but what can everybody else do to help us to make sure that everybody stays safe? We talk about the 5 pillars of COVID safety, and the first pillar is social distancing. We need students to know when they come through the door what social distancing is, and that it means 6 feet away from you and another person. Wearing face coverings when we can't maintain that distance. So if I'm wearing a face covering, I'm protecting you. If you're wearing a face covering, you're protecting me. Screening is very important. We did it before we walked into this meeting. We're also going to do it as students get off the bus, and we would ask that parents do it at home. If your child has a fever of over 100 degrees, 100 or over, it's best to keep them home because we're going to probably send them back. So screening is very important. COVID doesn't originate in the school building. It needs to be brought here by someone. So if we can keep it out of the building, that's our first line of defense. Of course, hand hygiene. Everybody needs to know to wash your hands often, cough or sneeze into the crook of your elbow. And finally, creating a culture where everybody understands that it's okay to do these things. It's not that it's not cool to wear a mask. If you're with it, if you can't be 6 feet away from somebody, we're going to do this. And if we can put all the pieces together, then we can help everybody to stay safe. So that's how folks can help us. Questions?
So Nick, I would like to just point out to the group that Nick did bring some items to take a look at over on the cart. All of the items there are to be used by B&G to facilitate the cleaning and sanitation process.
So thanks for the presentation. Have you done an analysis of how many, let's say, cleaning minutes or cleaning hours are required to execute this plan? I know you reduced the number of areas, which is really a great idea. You've repurposed people's roles. Have you looked at a sort of simulation of how long, how much time is required to do all these steps, and how many people and how much time is available to do those steps? And do you have a deficit? Do you have abundance of people do the work? Where do we sit on that analysis?
The best way for us to actually conduct that analysis is to put it into practice. And ideally, I would like to have cleaners doing all of the cleaning work and the maintenance and grounds folks doing the other work. I do realize that this year we will be at a deficit cleaning-wise, and that's why we're choosing to employ the maintenance and grounds people to backfill that. So if we do come up short, if we do have a deficit, we'll be able to utilize those individuals, and that will give us a benchmark for future years as to whether or not we need additional cleaning staff so that we can do those maintenance and labor back up to the other things.
I mean, perhaps a dry run, so to speak.
Sure.
Just to see how it goes?
Yep.
And whether you need to,
Definitely. Those zones are similar to ones that we have used in the past, not within the last couple of years. In each one of those zones, we could expect a cleaner to be able to get through them doing normal cleaning within an 8-hour shift. So I'm expecting that we will have to supplement that with the maintenance staff. So we will actually get active cleaners.
and I know it's not my job to sort of recommend how or what is not, but I would just say, why not have like a fun mass day where people come in and they draw pictures and kind of make it a fun thing, not just, oh my God, I gotta do this thing. That's not for you, man.
Sure.
You know,
I participate.
I should have drawn something, I went to my chiropractor the other day, and he had this really strange drawing, and it was just super fun to do with that.
Yes.
So I was going to ask the same question. Do you feel that you've had adequate staffing or have adequate staffing in general? But there was a high school principal, I think, and he did a parody using the song Can't Touch This, and it's absolutely hysterical. And he yelled, if you have any, singing or dancing abilities, but that's a fun thing to show kids. And it was a great example, and I think that's just another, teaching tool or teaching opportunity for kids to incorporate some of those fun videos and, that was just a suggestion.
Well, there's a lot of creative ways out there
Oh, yeah.
to be able to teach children, what the proper way to wash your hands are.
And they've had a lot of practice. I mean, I think most kids have had a lot of practice up until now, so, and they're motivated to return.
And what's in the disinfectant?
What's in the disinfectant? We use a Buckeye E23 product, and the active ingredient is quaternary ammonium.
I'm sorry?
Quaternary ammonium.
Ammonia.
Which is what?
Mike, are you able to help me out with that? Quaternary ammonium?
It's when we look at chemical disinfectants, there's different levels of disinfectant, and for this particular disease, we need one that's N-rated by the Environmental Protection Agency. So sometimes we use chlorine-based, like sodium hypochlorite, which is the active ingredient in bleach, and we have these quaternary ammonium compounds, which are designed, their contact time's relatively short, so they work very well, and they're not particularly toxic. So they work very well as disinfectants. Fairly common disinfectant agents, but it's a chemical compound which has the ability to destroy the microorganisms that we're talking about.
So I have a question of my own, then Dave has one. So I just want to reiterate what your presentation was. So you have 8 zones, right, between the first floor and the second floor, correct? Is that 8 zones?
Yep.
And we have 2 full-time cleaners and 1 part-time?
That's during the day shift.
Right, but you have this checklist that they're going to be wiping down toilets, handles, sinks, water fountains 5 times a day?
I should have been more clear in that. That checklist is specifically for the night cleaners. The day cleaners will be going around doing more of the intermediate restroom checklist. So they'll be hitting those throughout the course of the day. And then they'll also have an additional checklist for handrails and things like that.
I mean, are they going to be doing handles like like every 2 hours during the day or no?
If it's a high-touch surface, and it's defined as a high-touch surface, then we're going to increase the amount of times that we disinfect it throughout the day. So not all handles are high-touch surfaces, but if there are some that are considered that, then yes, we would.
Because it seems like a lot to do with only 3 people during the day to do all of that. That's all.
Sure, but we don't only have 3 people because we also have our 3 outside laborers and our 3 inside people.
So you have 6
So I
other
have 6
people.
different
Okay.
additional people that I can lean on should I need to do so.
Okay. All right, and then there's no cafeteria in the beginning, right? You're not doing cafeteria? Okay. So this is Dave's question. This says, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
What happens if a student tests with a 100-degree temperature after getting off the bus? Are the other students and staff who have been on the bus notified or isolated?
Well, I can answer a little bit of that. So that person is isolated and of course is seen by the nurse, and their parents are called, they are picked up, and then they're hopefully evaluated by a medical professional, and we will be consulting with the Columbia County Health Department on the next steps. Each particular case seems quite a bit different, and they handle it differently, requiring different actions. So we have to wait and see what kind of information comes back to us before we can actually take an action step.
You got that, Dave? You good? Did you get that?
So are the students on the bus held while all of this is going on? or-
Okay.
No, not necessarily, no.
Okay, sorry.
One of my concerns are bathrooms, you know, with all the little kids, and how are they gonna stay clean? And then also the air in those bathrooms, there's clearly no windows, and the filtration system, like Alicia and I have seen in the past where they don't work. Like in the 5th grade wing, we went in there because the PTO was doing some things in the bathroom, and the janitor, one of the B&G said, well, it doesn't even work in here.
Okay.
So that kind of has me a little,
Well, the restrooms, we do have a strict cleaning schedule for.
Yeah.
They have exhaust fans that will pull air out of the space. We will certainly hit those more often if needed. So we have a time frame every 2 hours that we're going to be visiting those and doing our disinfection and cleaning. And if we have reports that they need additional attention, then we'll provide that.
I've been in places, in public places where I've noticed they leave the bathroom doors open now. I mean, clearly that's not good in the little kid classrooms, but just for that airflow, I don't know.
Airflow and decreasing.
Yeah, understood.
Anybody else?
It seems to me that if you did a dry run with somebody making a random phone call, hey, the bathroom something doesn't work, or I need to answer, or whatever, do a simulation, you'll work out some of the kinks. You're not going to get it perfect the first time. How could you? Sure. You've never done it before. No human being could, but you can get better at it by practicing.
Absolutely.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, Mr. Bradway.
Thank you. Just have, like, do you have a schedule as far as filter changes, or are you like gonna wait till they're black and change them, or submerge their deep filter?
Schedules for filter changes?
Yeah.
So the question is, what's the schedule for the filter change? The schedule for the filter change is every 3 months, so it's quarterly. However, if it needs to be done more often, you can look for pressure drop on one side of the filter. Then we can use that in order to be an indicator that we need to do it more frequently.
I thought we'd be a little more proactive on doing it than a normal routine change if you're gonna be putting a filter in like that. What about UV systems? Have you guys entertained any ideas of putting UV in the system to kill any airborne allergens or viruses or anything of that nature?
So the question is, have we entertained UV disinfection systems?
Yeah.
We looked into them, and we consulted with Needham Risk Management, and at this time, we've decided that it's not the way for us to go because there's specific PPE and precautions that need to be taken by my staff. So as more studies are done on those, and if they do become more safe and it becomes prudent to do so, then we may employ those, but not at this time, we're not looking at them anymore.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Nick. Okay, next up.
I have a question for Neil. Have we had any response yet from the parents about this wanting to stay, keeping their kids home yet?
Yes.
Do you have any numbers?
I think it's about 72, 73 in that neighborhood, pre-K through 12.
So far, and they have.
That's correct.
And they have how much more time to respond?
We put Monday at 4 o'clock as a deadline, and most of that deadline is because we have to do bus routes, and that takes a little bit.
Okay, transportation, Rick.
Good evening. How's everybody?
Good, how are you?
A lot to get through.
Yeah.
So one thing that I would categorize our reopening plan, one word to use would be safety. As everybody is going to say tonight, because that's really what we're dwelling on, is trying to be as safe as we can with everybody, employees and students. So our mission for this year is focused on employee health and safety, the cleaning of our buses, student safety and social distancing on a bus, as well as student safety through staggered arrival times of the buses and their departures. For employee safety, what we've done, we've actually turned the bus garage into almost a one-way go-through through the bus garage so that people don't have to intermingle with each other. As they enter the bus garage through the door to the employee parking lot, they'll do their daily screening like we just did here and take their temperature. They'll disinfect their hands, they'll go punch in, disinfect their hands again, and all the while they're doing this, we're asking for them to do social distancing. If they cannot, then they will have to wear masks. We've also made a change to the inside of the bus garage as far as people coming in to sit down and chat a little bit with their friends before they go out on a bus run. And what boss would not want their employees to come in early, right? But we're not going to do that this year. We're going to ask for everybody to come in at the time that they're supposed to come in, do what they have to do, and get right out to their bus. Bus cleaning. Right now, we're in the process of cleaning all the buses, doing a deep clean on every bus, every minivan, every small bus. When we're back in school, as of September 10th or the 9th in some cases, we will wipe down all the high-touch areas after each run, and we will also fog each bus at the end of each run. We're going to, in one of our superintendent's conference days, we're going to have everybody at the bus garage trained in the proper cleaning. I think, Mike, we're going to be using one of your models for that. Social distancing on the bus. This has probably been the most major discussion topic that we've had. And we've gotten guidance from CDC, from the Department of Health, and from SED. It's all different. And it all really doesn't say what we need it to say. We need them to tell us how many kids can we put on a bus. But nobody has said that. They've said you must do appropriate social distancing, or you must social distance as practicable. We don't really know what that means. But one thing they have been clear about, and they've been consistent about, is everybody on a bus must wear a mask. So the most general interpretation of what everybody has said and what most school districts are following, from what I've understood, is one student per seat, with everybody wearing a mask. They wouldn't have told everybody to wear a mask on the bus if they were able to social distance. That's kind of the thought process that everybody went through to come up with this. They would be staggered each row. I'll show you a picture in a little bit. And any siblings on the bus must sit together. We want to get as much capacity on there as we can while still being safe. As I said, all must wear a mask. So what this is going to do, though, it's going to cause us to be at 50% capacity of what we normally are at. So we may have to add additional bus routes. We're not sure yet. The numbers are still coming in. We first made a call to almost every parent in the district. We've reached all but 81 students' families to find out who was actually going to ride the bus and who was not. Because we're not going to have the flexibility to run buses around with empty seats. We want to have, those seats that are marked for children to have somebody in it. We're also going to suffer from some reduced flexibility for parents, because what we have done in the past is we've allowed bus stops based on maybe a split family or certain daycare limitations that parents might have, where on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday we pick them up, on Tuesday and Thursday we pick them up here. We're not going to be able to do that throughout this crisis, because it's going to take up too much space on the bus. So we can go back to that and do what we've been doing, but right now, during this time, I think that's going to be a really tough thing to do. So, thanks to our software provider for our bus routes, they have, without charging us yet, put up a seating chart for us to use so that we can actually, as we're doing the bus routing, we can assign a child to a seat. And then this actual seating chart will get printed out and given to the bus driver before they have even started their run. They will know who sits where. That should be a huge aid to the bus drivers. It'll also help us in contact tracing if the need arises. So this is, you know, it's nice and colorful. It's kind of like picking airline seats when you're buying an airline ticket. Face mask is required. I'm not sure I'm going to be allowed to let that sticker stay on the bus because of DOT restrictions, but we will have it someplace. And the driver will be reminding students as they get on the bus. We mocked up one bus so that you can see kind of the effect of where that staggered seating would be. The green arrows represent where the children would sit. As we get to the first bus stop, the children are getting on a bus and get to the back of the bus first. That way we don't have any children passing each other in the aisle. So we load, you know, unlike we've ever loaded before, from the rear up to the front. It'll take us some while to get used to it. Student arrivals and departures. Again, we're trying to be safe. We're trying to not have large congregations of students at one place. So we'll stagger the bus arrivals in the morning, kind of similar to what we did last year where we had 5 or 6 buses come into the front of the bus lane, and that's where they would park and then they would unload. We might only do 4 though. It depends on how we do the staffing, because what we're going to do is we're going to send a staff member on the bus. They're going to get to the first seat of the bus, they're going to scan the temperature of that child, and they're going to release that child. They're going to go to the next one and do the same. So it's not going to be a mass exodus off of the bus. We're going to do it in a controlled fashion. It's going to take a little more time, but it's a safe way to do it. In the afternoon, let me talk about multiple entry points. We worked hard to get a single entry point last year, and it worked well. Okay, but we had, that puts everybody in a funnel heading for one spot. So in order to change that and to thin things out a little bit, we're going to use as many entry points as we can, and I'll get to that in the next screen. In the afternoon, we're going to do a similar thing that we do in the morning. We've never done it this way before, but we will adapt to this. We're going to bring in 4 or 5 buses. We're going to call the kids down. We're going to load those buses. Those buses go as the next 4 are there, ready to load their kids. That way, we reduce the congestion on the sidewalk. Again, it will take a little bit longer time. Some of the arrival times at home may be different, will be different than what they were last year. We will also implement a staggered parent pickup plan in the afternoon so that not all parents are coming in all at the same time to go pick up their kids from the pickup rooms. That also will have different entrances based on your grade levels. So this is kind of a picture of how we're going to do it. So the buses we just talked about, they're going to come in through the elementary entrance and go in the bus lane. Anybody coming off the bus that's pre-K through 3 will go into the side building, side door of the elementary wing. Anybody who comes off of there who is 4 through 8 will go to the right-hand door of the TAC entrance. That's this door over here to my left. And anybody that's high school will go to the door that we came through tonight. That's similar to what we did last year a little bit. So that's how the buses are going to unload. If you're a parent coming in to drop off your child, everybody's going to enter into the elementary entrance. Anybody who has a pre-K through 3 person, student to drop off will go into the parent drop-off lane. They will just kids and cross them at the elementary crosswalk, well, they'll go into the elementary entrance. So we've just introduced a new entrance again. Anybody who has a 4 through 8 child will continue straight around the back of the building, and they will go to the first door they come to behind the building. Anybody who has a high school child to drop off will continue past there and drop off at the pool entrance. I didn't mean to do that.
I think I did, sorry.
Neil?
I'm trying to show you the arrows up there, so. Here we go.
So that's what we came up with collectively for a way to spread everybody out so that there's not any congregating in one particular area. At every one of those entrances, there'll be people there to screen the child if they're a child that got dropped off by parents.
Rick?
Yep.
First off, this is the greatest concern I have, even more so than the school building in itself, is the transportation aspect of things. I don't envy the task that's ahead of you. I applaud all your efforts. But I just want to make sure people are clear that while the kids are wearing masks, there will not be enough social distancing inside a bus if we have one kid per seat.
There will not be 6 feet, that's correct.
I'm just wondering if there's something that we can put up some sort of, I don't even know if it's feasible, some sort of plexiglass or some sort of barrier that will at least give a little more separation between one seat and the second seat. Otherwise, you're talking about really only transporting 1/4 of the kids if you're talking about social distancing.
Correct.
So, I don't know, I'm just spitballing here.
So we actually, I made up a mock-up of a plexiglass screen, polycarbonate screen for the driver. And that is under review still by DOT. We're not sure if DOT is going to approve that kind of thing in a bus. We can't just do that on our own. So DOT, basically DOT and the manufacturer regulate what we can or can't put inside a school bus.
I get that. I understand what you're saying. These are not common times. And as far as that goes, I would just tell DOT what they can do.
I like the way you think.
I'm not, I understand they have rules and regulations for safety aspects, but as far as I'm concerned, the number one safety right now is the driver and the kids. And that means we got to put up something to add an added barrier. They're going to have to understand, or, then let them sue us. I don't really care. That's my thinking. I'm not speaking for everybody here. So I'm just very concerned about it. I think to me, that's where we're going to have that's the flashpoint to me where everything's going to happen. If a kid is sick and he's coming off the bus and we're going to time all that, there's going to be extra timing involved because it's going to take time to get those kids off the bus. I'm just,
I mean, part of the thing that we're faced with adding something like that into the bus is that you cannot impede the child's ability to exit the bus in an emergency.
I get that.
So you can't really do anything on the side. You might be able to do something in the back.
And that's what I'm thinking.
Between the seats, the seat backs are so high that for most kids, not some of the high schoolers that I've seen that are way high, but the seat back is actually way higher than what their head height is.
For the elementary kids.
Right. And they should be wearing a mask, but I can look into that more, Ron.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
He's wrong. Sorry. I really like Ron's comments, and I'm definitely a person that goes for ask for forgiveness, not permission. So protect those kids, I know you are. Having a seat height this high and you sneeze, it's going to go over all that.
Remember, they're wearing a mask.
Which is helpful and very, very helpful, but not 100%. So, and nothing's going to be 100%. It's a great plan, especially for your staff. But you're going to rely on a lot of parents to be on time, right?
That's every day.
All this stuff. So parents show up late, drop their kids off. Parents have a kid that has 2 kids. One's in elementary, one's in high school, whatever. So they got to go to both places. So I guess the same question for Nick is there been a dry run? Is there impact to the school schedule because it's taking more time to get kids to school and off the bus and so on? These types of considerations.
There has not been a dry run. We've been doing this for a number of years, and we found that our computer software is spot on bus runs themselves will actually be less than what we've taken in the past, because they'll be picking up less kids. And as far as the dismissal of the kids off the bus, we're going to have to take our best guess at that, at what the time is going to be, because I don't have a bus full of kids to come up to the front of the bus and time how long it's going to take take the temperature of 30 kids. But I think we have a pretty good handle on it. We've dealt with things like this in the past. We've had a number of changes that we've made when we went to a single bell. We did all that, and by the use of our computer routing system, we were able to very accurately describe when the buses would be there, how long it would take. I think we can do the same thing here.
If the kid comes up to the bus and they don't have their mask, they forgot their mask, it flew off.
We will give them one.
Okay.
We're going to figure out yet how the driver's going to do that without being too distracted, but I have an idea, so I think we can do that. We will offer a child a mask if they come to the bus without it.
Anybody else? Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Nadine, you have?
I was just gonna ask, are we gonna try to open the windows? 'Cause I
As
know
much
that's
as we
the
can,
president.
yes. The question was, are we going to open the windows? We're going to open the windows and the roof hatches until it gets chilly.
Weather dependent.
Thanks, Rick. Okay, next up is Pam, cafeteria. Yay! Annie, you're too cute.
I'm sorry, I don't like this face up.
Okay, so let's move. We'll advance the presentation.
Do you want, oh, you're gonna click? Okay.
You want to first move?
Well, if you want me to.
Yes.
Okay, I can go.
All right, so we're going to be on the move. We'll be delivering food. Breakfast will be prepackaged items, cereal, milk, with fruit, fruit, whatever, in a bag, a brown paper bag like you see today. And we'll have carts set up at each of the entry doors as students are coming in, so they can just grab
Having a hard time
a
hearing
bag.
you.
Yeah, and also,
Pam, can you just direct a little bit more up to here? They couldn't hear you about the bags.
okay, they're going to be grab-and-go bags, like you have today, where the students can grab it from the cart. We'll have 2 staff members there, so they can grab their bag, and then there'll be rolling milk coolers that will have the milk iced down, so they can grab a milk. And being we'll have 7 to 8 carts, so they'll be spread out throughout, too much gathering around these. And we don't have to have the students put in their numbers anymore. We just have to record if we serve 300 breakfasts, that's what I tell the state. That's what I record when I do my claims. So we don't have to have any pads there for students to put their numbers in. That will be prepared the evening before, the afternoon before actually, so it'll be ready to go when the bus is rolled. We hope to get more choices for breakfast as the weeks go by, but we're going to start out basic and just try to build on that and see how much time it does take to get that. Okay, lunches will be delivered to the classrooms, bag lunches. We've done measuring of elevators and coolers, and we think we have enough equipment now that we can just relocate where it is. A lot of our serving line equipment is on wheels, so we can wheel that out to the hallway and make it easy for kids to come through, or if we go to the end of the hallway, they can have their classroom and get their lunches. And the milk again will be in those portable coolers. We're going to do pre-made salad. We can't do a salad bar anymore, unfortunately, so we'll do pre-made salad. We'll probably start that in the second week, third week of school. All our bags will contain utensils, napkins, to store any and serve condiments. So we'll find out no package things, and we won't have people grabbing them and grab their forks, grab all of that. So they'll all be in the bag provided, prepared by the food service staff. Like I
do. You said that you're not going to use the pin pads for the kids, but then how are you going to, I mean, will the people that, the employees know all the numbers of the kids? I mean, I know they probably know a lot of
They
them.
don't have to use the numbers.
Okay.
This PD system, over the summer.
Yeah.
We send out 150 meals.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I claim, 150.
Okay.
Okay, I don't have to have each student.
Oh, but they have money on, like, how are you going to take the money out of their accounts then? Will they need to?
Well, we don't have to do it for the main meals. If they want extras, that's when we need numbers and.
But you're not going to do them, right? Or like?
Cashiers or the staff members will write it down and they come back to the kitchen.
Okay.
And they can bring in the information.
Okay.
So they're packaged up.
And the other thing was, I know you said they're going to grab the bags, but like, what about the milk? They're going to go into the cooler and grab the milk, or will the employee take the milk and hand it to them?
And they'll have people on.
I'm just, I thought that was what was going to happen. I just want to clarify.
Anything else?
I want to just thank you for the most important meal of the day.
He looks forward to this.
Yes. No one at home cared if I had it, but you did. I thank you for that.
Thanks, Pam. We have James Burmaster, 912 Senior High School.
So they're all gonna chip in a little bit, the principals,
Oh, so just gonna do it all together?
Dr. Gardner.
All right.
But they have sort of assigned slides to each other.
Oh, okay.
But they're
That's
all
even better.
contributing it. Okay?
So good evening. I'll start. As you know, the governor asked us to come up with 3 instructional modes, in-person, remote, and hybrid transitional, and we're going to talk about all 3 modes tonight. And I think Mary's going to start with in-person.
Do you guys want to click, or do you want me to do it? Okay, just let me know.
Yeah, we'll let you know. So in-person instruction is what Taconic Hills has decided that we are going to do. And the reason that we did it was we felt that it benefits students the most. So along with the following CDC guidelines for 6-foot distances between students when they're working, 12 feet when it's any type of aerobic activity, or when they are in chorus or playing a musical instrument, masks worn during movement, so in the halls when they're going from place to place. The other thing is we've been trying to work creatively and think creatively, and one of the parents had asked, had talked about putting the same number of students in a room, and fortunately we have the luxury of space at Taconic Hills. So one of the things that we've been able to do is in situations where class sizes are slightly larger, we have been able to actually double the space because we do have double rooms. So there might be a homeroom that has 22 students, so now they have 2 classrooms that is just one large room. So they are able to adequately, safely, socially distance. When that is not available to us, when we can't, there are certain don't have the double classrooms that we can use. So in those situations, we have actually reassigned teachers who have worked in academic intervention services, and they now have their own classrooms. So we have added sections of classes in order to reduce class size. We are currently on our 6th section of 4th grade, and we have an average of 16 students in each of those classes. So we are working to make sure that students are going to have art kits, that they have individual kits so that they're not going to be sharing commonly used items. They will be eating at this time, they will be eating breakfast and lunch in the classrooms. And teachers are going to be rotating to the next class. And by doing that, we are going to eliminate a lot of the need for the deep disinfection.
Okay, our grades 7 through 12. One of the ways that we're trying to cut down on the number of interactions is we're adjusting the schedule for students. On a typical day in past years, students would have 9 periods of 40 minutes, including one lunch. And you can imagine in some grade levels, if you have 9 different classes, you might have contact with over 100 students during that day. And then in the hallways, you're running into many more. So in looking and trying to figure out a way to cut down on those interactions, we've moved to a block schedule. A block schedule will now mean that students will have 4 periods of 90 minutes each day. It'll be on a 2-day rotating schedule. Actually, a 4-day rotating schedule. So a scenario that a student might have, a typical schedule for a high school student might be that on an A day and C day, they have 4 periods. They might start out and have English and social studies in the first 2 blocks, and then have PE and maybe a work hall during the 3rd block, and then 4th period might be an elective that goes along with that. The next day, they have 4 more blocks, and in those 4 blocks, they might have their math and science backed up by their lab class and another elective mixed in there also. That cuts down on the number of transitions that students have and interactions, but at the same time, we're also looking to cohort and pod kids together. So we'll find students that have the same classes. Kids that have the same English and social studies, we'll lump them together, we'll keep them in the same classroom, and have the teachers rotate through. Ideally, you could find a schedule that a student would stay in that same room with the same students all day, but it becomes difficult to try and meet the scheduling needs of all students to do that. So at a minimum, we're going to cut down on those transitions and maybe have 2 or 3 at maximum different groups they're in the day, so that we cut down, slightly on those. With the 90-minute block, there will be 4 30-minute lunches during that block, so we can spread out the lunches in all the different classrooms. It doesn't take away for the students to still get the same amount of classes that they've gotten before. Another thing that the 90-minute actually buys us a little bit too is having this long stretch of time allows us to cut down on the number of students in the hallway at a time. I'm sure many of you have seen the viral photo that went out from a hallway crammed with students down in Georgia that a student got suspended initially for posting that. We're looking to avoid that, and by having this block, we can stagger the movements to the next classes when they have it. We have a 5-minute transition between. Some classes might leave 5 minutes early, some classes might leave during the 5 minutes, some 5 minutes afterwards. It's a good way to really cut down on the amount of students that are in the hall. We know that social interaction is a real big part of the school experience, and we want to find ways where kids can do that, but we don't want to create unsafe situations where there's massive amounts of people moving in opposite directions to do this. Okay, if you can go to the next slide. I'll hand it on over to John, who's going to talk about some of the remote instruction.
Hello, everyone. Before we go on to all remote instruction, I want to just talk a little bit about some in-person points that are relative to the elementary school. Question came up from some parents, are kids going to be able to go outside for recess? The answer to that is yes. We're going to have an opportunity for the teachers, the classroom teachers, to take the children outside the recess themselves at a point during the day where we can keep just a few classes out at the playground at a time. So there'll be a recess schedule, if you will, opportunities for teachers to take their kids out at designated times. Although the playground is very large and we have lots of fields, we still want to avoid lots of congestion in those areas. In terms of providing safety outside, we're going to have the kids wash their hands and use antiseptic before they go out and after they come in. In addition, the buildings and ground staff will do their best to help clean these the piece of apparatus throughout the day. Realistically, though, they're not going to be able to keep up with that constantly. So the important point for the kids is make sure they've washed their hands, kept them clean, and don't touch their faces. At this point, unfortunately, we probably are going to have kids still wear masks outside because, let's face it, they're going to run around, they're going to be very close to each other at times on the playground. So we may be able to make a different decision, but at this point, we are going to be able to take kids outside. We're also going to make as much use as possible of the outside areas for things like physical education, music, and I'm thinking especially on the elementary students. Amy Hilliard's program often had singing. It was a large part of what she did. With the 12-foot distance required for those types of activities, we can't possibly fit Amy's classes in her little room. So thinking about that, if she's going to sing with them, she might be able to take them right outside here to the outside amphitheater, weather permitting. We might be able to open up the cafeteria, especially half the cafeteria, for her to use for a singing event. So we're going to be creative. We're going to make sure that we give her the opportunity to enrich students with singing like she always has. It's a huge part of what she does. You could think of similar ideas perhaps for the woodwind instruments that would require that extra space. Perhaps Russ Webb could take the outside amphitheater and utilize that, or again, a cafeteria larger space that he has in his practice rooms. So I just want to be clear. We've done a lot of thinking about this, about how we can keep some normalcy in the child's day so that they do experience the things that they love the most and that they enjoy. So yes for PE, yes for recess, yes for music, and yes for art. We're hoping, honestly, that we can bring kids into Alyssa Kipnis' art room for art. Because of the use that we've had now of having some additional teachers, we are reducing class sizes. Especially for the first quarter, we now have over 20 kids in the elementary who are going to be on remote learning. We talked about 72 or 73 school-wide, and there's still several days left before parents might make the decision to keep their children home. What we're seeing then overall is a reduction in class sizes, at least for that first quarter. I just want to make that point about in-person. There were a lot of questions that came up. What's the kid's day going to be like for in-person learning? It's going to be as normal as we can make it with the use of these masks, the social distancing, and these other factors we're putting in for safety. All right, now we go on to remote. Before I start talking about remote instruction, I want to explain that there are really two types of remote instruction. There is the remote instruction that we have just made a decision as of Monday of this week to offer to parents. That is what we're calling a parent choice remote learning plan. That's the parent choosing not to send their kid for in-person. They're wanting at this time for the first marking period, the first quarter, they want to keep the children home and they will accept the remote learning that we offer them. That is one version of remote learning. That one, we're still working on some details about what it will be like, but we think at this time, if we listen carefully to what Neil said, the students who are home will virtually join their classmates in person through the technology, through the computer, through the virtual learning. At the time, that teacher who's teaching students in front of them is also going to be responsible for the instruction going on with the kids who are joining virtually. Now you can imagine a lot of questions have come up. How's that going to work? How's that possible? How can a teacher do this in-person learning and at the same time do justice for the kids who are home joining virtually? The answer to that question is we will provide some help for them. We will work with them to figure out the best way to do that. Where possible, if there are extra adults who might be able to join them and assist in those matters, we'll try to deploy those people to help as well. But we know that this is going to be challenging. We believe that we have some excellent teachers here who for many years have diversified their learning and taught different groups of kids simultaneously in their classrooms in what we have called for many years stations. If that teacher considers those kids in the virtual realm as a station while they're working, it might make them understand where we're going with this. They can do it. They've done it. And DL teachers, distance learning teachers, for years have taught kids who have been in front of them as well as kids who are joining remotely. It's not a new concept, but it will be new to most of our teachers to tackle that challenge. We will work with them on that. So I've just described the parent choice remote learning plan. I don't want to confuse that with the governor's choice mandated remote learning, which we experienced in March, where he said schools are closed, schools have a responsibility to teach kids at home remotely. That's everybody is now remote. There are no in-person classes going on. That's what you see on this slide here. All right. What is that going to look like? We're going to try to make that remote experience where everybody's home now look as much like what we do in person every day here. So, there will be a schedule. There will be dedicated time for instruction. It will not be haphazard or hit or miss. There will not be significant difference between one teacher teaching something at a grade level and another teacher teaching something at a grade level or course to course. We're expecting to have a much more organized, scheduled, remote learning program for kids if that's what the governor says we need to do. We need to shut down and do it again. We're going to make sure that they have their device. Every student will have a device, one-to-one. We will make sure that students have support if they have network issues. We're going to make sure that we're using a common platform or platforms so there aren't so many different remote platforms that parents and kids have to sign on to get their instruction from the teachers. As I said, the teachers, as long as we're allowed to, we're going to have the teachers report to work here. They're going to teach from their classrooms and have all of that available, all that technology, their smart board, all their tools available to them right here, and broadcast that via the technology. We are expecting that there will be required live sessions so that every teacher will have a Zoom account and use that Zoom account to provide the instruction. We will be taking attendance. We'll be taking attendance using our school tool, which we do now. Teachers will pull up their roster and indicate whether a child is present or not. So again, the two types of remote. The one is the one we're talking about implementing in the fall, where a parent chooses that and says, you know what, no, I'm going to keep my kid home. What are you going to offer them remotely? The second type is that we're shut down and we now, as a staff and as students, are all teaching and learning remotely.
Can I just ask a question about the parent choice remote learning? Will those children be offered, and I don't even know that this would be possible, but band?
So, if what we have is we're going to try to mirror what we're now doing. So, we would want them to have a band experience remotely. Yes, that is part of their instructional day.
I have a question. Are they going to be held, so the people that actually choose the remote learning, I'm assuming, of course, these are the parents that are going to be, they're into making sure their kids are doing their schoolwork. What kind of accountability are we going to hold these kids to? Because we need accountability. They can't just stay home and they're not going to, I want them to make sure they're getting their education. That's important for me.
Right.
So, accountability.
So, Bonnie, just to make sure I understand, whether or not it's the parent choice remote or the all remote,
whatever.
Your concern is
accountability.
How do we make that happen effectively?
Correct.
Where's the accountability? Well, I would argue that that is a challenge. It was a challenge from March to June.
Well, certainly.
We have some people that just refused to buy into what we were trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
So attendance, as I said now, attendance will count. If parents want, especially in the upper grades, 9 to 12, if parents want their children they're going to have to be in attendance. If they want passing grades, they're going to have to participate. They're going to have to complete assignments. So one of the consequences, the natural consequence for not participating will be failure. Now that may not be enough to get people motivated to get their kids online, but that's a reality. We were very understanding, we were very compassionate with the pause that we just went through. We recognized that no one was prepared for it.
Right.
We did not have it in place in a fashion that we could really say we've got accountability. We're going to try to get this right the first time if we have to go to this methodology.
So I'd like to make one comment along this line of thought. There still remains the option to pull the choice of the parent to home learn, and if the child does not perform adequately, I'm not exactly sure how that would occur, but we are discussing what that might be and what those standards might be in order to, unfortunately, tell a parent you've lost the privilege to teach your child or to have them taught remotely.
And do I understand this remote learning is in real time? The parents understand that the school bell rings at 8 o'clock and the child has to be sitting there at Zoom at the real time.
So Linda, teachers have a work day,
Yeah.
right? So we're obviously going to try to work within that work day. At the same time, teachers also spend some time after school helping kids. There will be some after hours work that goes on. Instructional time frames.
Right.
And so yes, the kids, assisted by their parents, especially the little ones, would have to log on at certain times. It's going to be expected. That's our class.
Right.
Yes.
And the teacher will admit each child as they get into the Zoom, into the classroom. If it's staggered different times or whatever, the teacher's responsible to admit them into the class.
So if you're talking about an elementary school teacher, they would admit they know who's on their roster, they would admit those children. If you're talking about a high school situation where we might have several different teachers during the day, they will have those time frames, and those teachers will admit those kids remotely, yes.
I have two questions, please, for you or your colleagues.
Yeah.
How many hours of training, additional training, is this teacher getting to operate in this environment in general? We laid out a lot of different scenarios. Different teachers have different responsibilities, whether it's band or PE or elementary or whatever. So, how much training does this teacher get for this new role? That's the first question.
How much training do the teachers get for the new world? Well, Mr. Bender, you've been talking about a dry run for several other aspects of our plans. I will tell you that we had 3 months, almost 3.5 month dry run for remote learning. So most of our teachers are returning. They've had experience with remote learning. We've learned a lot. We've had those conversations. I think they have many ideas of how to improve what we did. And so I think it's been a lot of learning by doing and learning on the job. However, we have 3 superintendent's conference days that we've approved in our calendar. During that time, we are certainly going to be having sessions on remote learning, effective learning, and of course, spending most of our time on what's the in-person instruction going to look like, how's it going to be different, right? That's really what we're doing. So we do have those 3 days built in. Teachers are off right now. We are doing some Zooming with them, but it's voluntary, and we're starting to have these conversations with them about how to make this transition back to school as seamless as possible.
Thank you. Second question.
In addition to that, we have a technology integration specialist that is on staff all day long, every day, and that's his job, is to teach in that environment.
Thank you. The second question is, I apologize to forget your name, but during the comment period, the gentleman was talking about your kids, and Bradway, and the level of, let's say, energy they have throughout the day, right? Now we're going to have 90-minute blocks, which means less time to burn energy just by moving around, sitting in their chair. I know I was one of those kids. I still can't sit in my chair. Is there any work that's being done on what teachers can do in the classroom to get them up out of their chairs, to get them moving a little bit, take a page out of the Japanese culture? During meetings, everybody stands up and they take a few stretching exercises or whatever. Is that being incorporated into the daily activities?
So we have been working on that for years. They're doing mindfulness training with our teachers, as well as brain gym exercises, those types of things, movement things, good instruction, really engaging students, and having them active in their learning process. And that kind of TV has been going on for years. So I do feel that our teachers are well equipped for that.
All right, so we're just going to blow through real quickly. I'm not going to read all this to you. Basically, what we're looking at is if we went all remote. Again, this is governor's orders. We're all teaching from the district to students who are at home. We're talking about what that might look like for students in these slides. Small group instruction, break that group of 18 or so kids into 3 groups of 6, and so forth. Trying not to keep those little guys on that screen for more time than is necessary. So typically a student would look at about 80 minutes of instruction per day at pre-K level. The teacher would be teaching virtually 240 minutes if they did what we outlined. Next slide, Neil. K through 2, a similar approach, breaking those kids up a little bit for more discrete, smaller groups of reading, math, writing, and so forth. Again, the students, it looks like for the most part, would be on the screen, working, etc., for about 160 minutes a day, so double what the pre-K kids did. The teachers, again, would offer about 240 minutes per day. Next slide, Neil. 3rd and 4th grade, more whole group approach, a little longer instructional period for each of those. They are obviously going to have specials. We talked about specials, academic support, and so forth. In this case, the students are going to be engaged for about 240 minutes per day. So you can see there's a progression. We went from 80 to 240, and now we take a look at grades 5 and 6. And you can see what we have up there for them. They've got 3 60-minute instructional blocks. They've got 40 minutes for their specials. We've got time for research and literacy. We've got CTE for 6th graders. And in that case, the students will be busy for about 260 minutes per day.
I think the important thing to take away from all of this, all remote, if it is mandated by the governor, is that this time around we are looking for a more structured approach, and we are going to have a clear set schedule, and we are going to have things that we are looking for the students to do, that there's going to be greater accountability.
Accountability.
And for students and for teachers. So that is simply what we are looking for. We hope we don't have to get there, but we have to have a plan in place.
Having said that, you can see what we had in mind for grades 7 through 12. Tim, if you wanted to speak more to that.
Yeah, so the 7 through 12 schedule will be the same schedule that students have when they're in person. So they will still follow that A, B, C, D schedule, and they'll have the same times, unless teachers need to modify them a little bit. There will be live instruction. There will be other times where students are working on their own. Teachers might pair up students on Google Forms or Classroom or some of those things to work in groups. It won't be, it says a maximum of 360 minutes per day. Students will have for classes. Some students don't have 4 classes per day. It'll be less than that for some. And nobody's expecting a student to sit there and watch the screen and Zoom with a teacher for 6 hours a day. Nor would we want a student sitting in a classroom listening to a teacher talk for 6 hours during the day. There's got to be activities that are part of it. So it might involve check-ins on Zoom, part of the lesson on Zoom, part of the lesson is you're working on different things. But the idea is to keep students engaged for that period of time. And we're going to set minimum amounts of participation and minimum amounts of interaction and completion of work in order to qualify for attendance for a period. So those will be all set and consistent among the teachers. So we have one more model, but before we skip to that, I'd like to hand it off to Stella because we've got a little information on the special ed students too.
In the special education world, all students are guaranteed what we call FAPE, a free and appropriate public education. In all of the models that we've shown, all of our special education students will have their goals taught to them and progress monitored. So at the end, we'll have data about how the students have grown in their goals that are set forth by their IEPs.
Okay, so the last slide, the next one there is our last model. And the last model is the hybrid model. And the hybrid model, you'll see lots of variations on this on different schools around the state and around the country. The model that we've chosen for basically for our pre-K through 12, unless we have to modify it somehow once we go to the hybrid, is to have half the students here on a particular day and half the students learning at the same time remotely on the same day. So the way it would work is we would take groups of students, say let's take the 9th grade for example. We take half the 9th graders. Half the 9th graders would be here in their classes following their regular scheduled classes. The other half of the 9th graders would be home following their regularly scheduled classes in a remote way. It'd be happening at the same time. Those 9th graders, that group, would be in for Monday and Tuesday. Then they switch, and on Thursday and Friday, the kids that were in person Monday and Tuesday are now remote on Thursday and Friday, and it switches for the students who are in person then. Wednesday is reserved in the hybrid plan as an all remote learning day for all students, so that it gives us time, if this is a plan that we have, to thoroughly clean the building, to make sure that we're checking in with students in every single class. It might provide more time for special education students or teachers to make sure that they're having that individual contact with their students to make sure that they're on progress for the goals and they're tracking the things that they're doing for them. That is our hybrid model at this time.
You got a question? Yeah, I think kind of a question. Coming in here, you wonder what's being done, and I'm confident that everybody here has done all their homework and is doing everything they can. And being here, I'm even more confident than I was walking in. I just want people to understand that those here and those participating at home, that all the best plans can fall the next day, and we need to be prepared for that. I'm hopeful. I'm very hopeful, but I'm also preparing for the worst as well, as I think you all are. And I just want people to understand that this staff, this administration, this staffing are doing everything possible to make this work. And I think if anybody can make it successful, it's this group here. Just keep in mind that tomorrow's another day. And what the sun brings, the sun brings. So let's just hope that it all works well and we can all accomplish what we want done as to keep our kids safe and our staff safe and educate our kids as best as possible. That's all I want to say.
Mrs. Torsham.
Yes.
So that kind of ends this section, but we do have our health and safety consultant here, Michael Needham. I just would like to give him the opportunity to make a few comments as this is his profession, deals with many school districts, many other businesses that he advises on COVID-19 and other health and safety issues.
Thank you, Neil. I don't have a fancy PowerPoint, so I'll apologize to the board. But my background, I'm an industrial hygienist and registered environmental scientist, and we work with schools in Washington County, down to Rockland, as well as a lot of other entities. And I think one of my big messages tonight is that where we are, it's more global picture. Tohono Hills is part of Capital Region, so we lose our identity as a school and a county. We're part of a much bigger of COVID in the dashboard. And that's why we're grouped together with other areas that people move back and forth with. And so we have some rules about that. We're in phase 4 now, and I'll come back to that in just a second. It's an open year district. We have to have in capital region, our metrics have to be the rate below 5% on a rolling average of testing. And if they increase by 9%, we'll close again and go to all remote learning opportunity. And right now, all of our regions in Europe have done a fantastic job, are eligible for reopen, which is great. And we've seen great trending in New York. And part of this, that interesting part about phase 4 is this isn't arbitrary. This isn't an experiment. When Nick talked about the 5 pillars of COVID safety, those were drawn from the medical community. When the school district went on pause, a lot of things didn't. We were working with hospitals, nursing homes, jails. And New York State wisely embraced the 5 pillars very early on, and they worked. There's no question about that. It's a statement. And you've seen that. New York got done a very difficult set of cards early in the game with the cases we have. And we drove those numbers down, and the test rates are phenomenally low right now. We've done a really good job. But it's like a cocktail medicine. If you take any component of those 5 pillars away, it doesn't work. The social distancing, the face coverings, the hand hygiene, and most importantly, the culture. Culture is critical. You can look around the country and see where people lose their culture. They lose the discipline of the 5 pillars and what happens. And so I completely agree with what you said. We can do this here, but it requires the cooperation between all the different groups. And those 5 pillars, we saw when we were working with those medical facilities and nursing homes that never closed, we saw the 5 pillars succeed there and able to stay out. And then we went to phase 1 because our metrics allowed that. And we started reopening. We went through essential construction and manufacturing. And every business and municipality in the state was given a template, a safety plan. And it said, these are the 5 pillars. And you have to follow them. You have to do an attestation online if you're going to comply with those in order to operate your facility. And we all did, and with great success. And we moved through one phase to another to another. And we've learned so much through that process that now here we are at phase 4, the last phase of it, opening education. And the great thing about that is we've had this opportunity to learn so much along the way. And New York's really kind of a model for that. And while things, none of us have crystal balls, but what we can say is we've done a phenomenal job here. And we have a lot of knowledge, and it's not arbitrary knowledge. And I think the difficulty when you see a Board of Education or administration that can't answer questions right away because they're still working on a lot of the operational components, we put all of our plans together, submitted them with our educational philosophy, our transportation, and now we're working through the intricacies of where are we using those aerosol dispersing agents and how are we approaching this exactly or manipulating this in classrooms. And so we're still working through that, but none of this is arbitrary. It's not a huge experiment. We've done this, and we can do this. I really believe that based on my experience from the days that we started the medical facilities right through the state. So it's not culture though, and it's a shared responsibility. So I think that'd be my message.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. That concludes the presentation. So we're going to do old business. So Linda was not here for the last. So I need to call for nominations for the one seat on the budget committee. I'll nominate Linda. Can I have a second? Ron, second. Do you accept?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Be it resolved that the Board of Education appoint Board of Education members Bonnie Torsha, Alicia O'Rourke, and Linda Lee to the Budget Committee for the 2020-2021 fiscal year. Can I have a motion, please? Craig, second. Joe? All in favor? Thanks, Dave. Okay, now I need a nomination for, be it further resolved that the Board of Education appoint Bonnie Torsha as the chairperson of the Budget Committee for the 2020-2021 fiscal year. Can I have a motion, please? Linda, second. Heidi, all in favor? Thanks, Dave. All right, now I need a nomination for a seat on the Legislative Committee. Nomination?
I can nominate Linda.
Okay, I'll second it. Do you accept?
Yes.
Okay. All right, be it resolved the Board of Education appoint Board of Education members Terry Sullivan, Craig Bender, and Linda Lee to the Legislative Committee for the 2020-2021 fiscal year. Can I have a can I have a motion, please? Sorry. Ron, second. Joe, all in favor? Okay, thanks. Can you see Dave? Can you see Dave? Okay, you can, all right. Be it further resolved, the Board of Education appoint Terry Sullivan and Craig Bender as co-chairpersons of the Legislative Committee for the 2020-2021 fiscal year. Can I have a motion, please? Ron, second. Linda, all in favor? Thank you. Okay, now we're on to new business. Be it resolved that the Board of Education approve the tax levy for the 2020-2021 school year in the sum not to exceed $197,610. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board fix the equalization rate, tax rates by towns, and confirm the extension of the taxes as they appear in the following described tax roll and amounts not to exceed $25,197,610. So you guys can see that chart there. I read this whole thing here?
You don't have to.
No, you don't have to.
Okay, can I have a motion? Motion. Ron, second. Joe, questions?
So the only thing I would ask is that we only start one of these.
Oh, for the signatures?
For signatures,
Okay.
and Mr. McComb.
And Dave did say earlier he'd come in, he'd make arrangements to come in. Okay, could I have any questions now? All in favor? Dave? Yes. Opposed? I'm sorry. It's Craig. Sorry, Craig. All right. We have the online tax bill payment merchant services fees. Whereas the Chiconic Hills Central School District currently offers district residents the option to pay their tax bills online through a third-party vendor, and whereas there are merchant convenience fees associated with making online payments through a third-party vendor, and whereas the Board of Education of the district desires to engage Municipal Pay as the third-party vendor for the benefit of the taxpayers and will absorb the merchant convenience fees payable to the vendor. Therefore, be it resolved, the Board of Education of the Chiconic Hills Central School District hereby authorizes the Assistant Superintendent for Business to pay the merchant convenience fees associated with district residents making online payments of their tax bills to a third-party vendor from the general fund. Can I have a motion, please? Ron, second. Linda, questions? All in favor? Okay. Dave? Thank you. On to C. Approve the disposal of following athletic items. I'm not going to read them all. You can read them. We've got some soccer jerseys and mostly soccer stuff, right? Oh, a couple basketball uniforms as well. Can I have a motion, please? Ron, second. Alicia, any questions on that? Are we getting rid of them, or are we like donating them to somebody, or?
I don't know if they have any value.
I mean, like maybe to a youth group or something like that?
We could consider that.
Okay.
Need them not to have any
Yeah,
value.
I hate to see them just get thrown away. Okay. All in favor? Dave, you're good? All in favor? Thank you. All right, do we have anybody for the second public forum? Okay.
No.
And I guess we're going to go, I need a motion to go in executive session to discuss matters related to ongoing contract negotiations. Ron, second. Alicia, all in favor? All right, thank you.